Although he was quirky, he was the most underrated, maybe most underappreciated TV and movie director of his era. All these shows had something to look at, something for everybody. But unfortunately, the auteur was drawn to the dark and the dreamlike, has passed away at 78. Now, David Lynch, according to the Hollywood Reporter, has passed away at 78. With such hallucinogenic masterworks as Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, Twin Peaks, and The Elephant Man, he often left more questions than answers. Now, according to the article by Vittorio Zanino, according to the Hollywood Reporter, with the photos by Zanino Salotto of Getty Images, David Lynch, again the writer-director, portrayed a seemingly bucolic American in most of his productions, only to reveal as teeming with the mysterious and macabre. Lynch's death was announced on his Facebook page by his family. It is with deep regret that we, his family, announce the passing of the man and the artist David Lynch. We would appreciate some privacy at this time. There's a big hole in the world now that he's no longer with us. But as you would say, keep your eye on the donut and not on the hole. It's a beautiful day with golden sunshine and blue skies all. In August, he revealed that he was suffering from late-stage emphysema after many years of smoking, and he couldn't leave home for fear he would get COVID-19. Nobody who saw Lynch's works could mistake them for anyone else's. Unlike other leading auteurs, he didn't belong to a movement or fit easily into a genre. While his pictures echoed the mindset of Louis Buñuel or of a great Salvador Dali, critic Pauline Kael called him the first populist surrealist, and were influenced by such film noir landmarks as Billy Wilder's classic Sunset Boulevard. They were all his creations. In fact, they appeared timeless, strangely disconnected for any particular era or place, which made them all the more startling and disturbing. Most of his short films drew a lot of interest, which led to his movie and TV career. Now, most of them were horror stories that mixed the monstrous with the mundane, that emerged from a landscape of dreams or nightmares, their happy endings doing nothing to erase the discomfort he left behind. They were as perplexing as any surrealist drawing, as haunting as any Grimm's fairy tale, only far harder to decipher, which sometimes led skeptics to wonder whether even Lynch had a key to unlocking them. Few doubted the power of his vision and imagination, though naysayers questioned his logical thread. While the filmmaker could occasionally descend to self-parody, critics groups included his major pictures on lists of the most important movies in the past century. In a 2012 poll of nearly 900 experts, Sight and Sound magazine ranked Mulholland Drive at number 28 and Blue Velvet at number 16. There was, however, a notable discrepancy between Lynch's international standing and his domestic reputation. None of his films is featured in the American Film Institute most recent ranking of the 100 greatest movies, first published in 2007. Nor is the Academy Award always supportive. He was nominated for 4 Oscars as director for Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, and the 80s Elephant Man, which also garnered him an adapted screenplay nom. This was, of course, the Brooks film through the Mel Brooks Company. Lynch was finally accorded an honorary Oscar Academy Award in 2019. Like the only other modern American filmmakers to rank above him on the Sight and Sound lists, Francis Ford Coppola, whose Apocalypse Now was 14th, while The Godfather came in 21st. Lynch was that rarity in Hollywood, an artist who eventually turned his back on the art form he had mastered. Now, when he revisited, he celebrated 1991 ABC series Twin Peaks, with 2017 disappointing Twin Peaks reboot for Showtime, and of course there was also a movie version that didn't do well. His filmic output sputtered in the final decades and seemed to halt for lengthy stretches following his last feature, Inland Empire. Later in his life, he drew more attention for a 17-minute short, 2017 What Did Jack Do?, in which he played a detective interrogating a monkey that for anything else he had done recently on film. That endeavor seemed as much a sly joke as an artistic statement. Instead, after the Pan-Inland Empire, he devoted himself to his paintings, an interest that had preceded film, and 2 other primary endeavors, a coffee-making business and transcendental meditation, the Buddhist practice he had embraced in his late 20s. Everything in me changed when I started meditating, he reflected in his unusual 2018 memoir, Room to Dream, which was co-written with Christine McKenna, which alternated third-person and first-person chapters. Within 2 weeks of starting, Peggy, his first wife Peggy Lynch, comes to me and said, "Your anger, where did it go?" Now, David Keith Lynch was born in Missoula, Montana on January 20th, 1946. His father, Donald, was a research scientist, and his mother, Edwina, taught English. Their work led him to move frequently from Montana to Idaho to Washington State to Virginia. Never a good student, he was shaped by the Boy Scouts, and in later years, many of those who knew him expressed surprise at a contradiction between his mild manners and eruptions of violence and profanity in his art, especially look at it like Blue Velvet. Anyone searching to explain Lynch's work through his upbringing would have trouble. My parents were so loving and good, he wrote in his memoir. They had been good parents, too, and everybody loved my parents. They were just fair. He added that a lot of us who are just set when we get here. They call it a wheel of birth and death, and I believe we had been around many, many times. Now, after dropping out of several colleges and doing Boston School at the Museum of Fine Arts and New York's prestigious Cooper Union, he was working as an artist and printmaker in '66 when he made his first film, a very, very interesting 4-minute short called 6 Men Getting Sick 6 Times. That and other early efforts led him to win a place at EFI, which had just opened an LA-based conservatory that was subsequently ranked among America's finest film schools. Enrolled alongside an arrival collection of students that also included Terrence Malick and Paul Schrader, Lynch spent the next several years making his first feature, the very, very classic and influential Eraserhead, which was a dystopian vision shot in black and white. Adored aboard in equal measure, the movie became a cult favorite, playing at midnight screenings in art houses across the country, no less a figure than Stanley Kubrick proclaimed it as one of his favorite films. Now, Eraserhead had probably landed Lynch's first feature proper, The Elephant Man, when Mel Brooks, his equally improbable producer, fell in love with the director's esoteric work. Based on the true story of Joseph Merrick, renamed John Merrick in the picture, Elephant Man told the story of a grotesquely deformed 19th century freak show performer, played by the great John Hurt, who was discovered and cared for by an enlightened surgeon, played by Oscar winner Anthony Hopkins. Lynch was still new to the profession, director and quirky enough that at one point, the mercurial Hopkins allegedly tried to have him fired. Hopkins wasn't openly hostile, but he was aloof, remembered producer Jonathan Sanger. And one day he called me in his dressing room and said, "Why is this guy going to direct a movie? What has he done? He's done one little movie. I don't understand this." Now eventually, when Hopkins flew in Lynch and demanded, "Just tell me what you want," Lynch recalled that this anger comes up in me in a way that's happened just a couple times in my life. It rolls up like you can't fucking believe. I can't even imitate the way I was yelling because I hurt my voice. I screamed some stuff at him, then screamed what I wanted to do, and actress Wendy Hiller turns to Tony and quietly says, "I would do what he says." So he did. All said difficulties were forgotten when the movie proved a terrific critical hit, earning 8 nominations, though it failed to win a single one. Now, this was as close as the mainstream Hollywood acceptance as Lynch would ever get. He was burned by his next venture, a big-budget adaptation of Frank Herbert's sci-fi novel Dune, starring Kyle MacLachlan. After a year and a half of production in Mexico, editing got underway in L.A. It was horrible, just horrible. It was like a nightmare what was being done to the film to make this 2-hour and 17-minute running time that was required. Things were truncated and whispered voiceovers were added because everybody thought the audience wouldn't understand what was going on. He didn't so much blame producer Dino De Laurentiis as himself. I always knew Dino had the final cut in the film. Now, the movie was panned by critics, but he was redeemed again by his fourth feature, Blue Velvet. Now, taking it from the title of the classic Bobby Vinton song, Blue Velvet used one of Lynch's favorite narrative tropes, the film noir detective story, to follow a naive young man, Kyle MacLachlan, the star of Dune as well, as he sets out on the voyage of discovery triggered by a cut-off ear. And it gets freaky from there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the main character of the movie is played by Dennis Hopper, Frank Booth, a man driven to a paroxysm of sexually fueled rage, made all the movie more terrifying by the oxygen mask which he covers his face. Heightening his desires, he chokes off his air supply, and remains arguably the most petrifying bad guy ever to grace American film, with only too many critics Hannibal Lecter even comparing. From then on, ladies and gentlemen, it was onward and upward. He was, over the years again, Twin Peaks again, a very quirky TV show. Every episode was like a film in itself, led to Mulholland Drive. So, ladies and gentlemen, the idea about David Lynch being the greatest director of all time, no. Is he one of the most important American directors of all time? Yes. Because you say David Lynch-esque, or like David Lynch. when you're used as a verb and an adjective and a noun at the same time. And if you want to see how good David Lynch is, pick any movie and you tell me. And by the way, leave a comment what your favorite David Lynch movie is. For me, it's The Elephant Man. And the parody of it on SCTV was just as good. Because when you get parodied on SCTV, it must be good. So that's the story of the legend of David Lynch. We're going to miss your brother. Rest in peace. If you like what we're doing here, we're our movie tributes. Let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.